Welcome back, folks. I'm Roger Ramsey, the Executive Chef Instructor here at Hardin County Schools Early College and Career Center. Besides me, my dear friend, co-teacher, and sous chef for our show, Mr. Bobby Thompson. Well, it's October, so it's fall break. Yay, fall break. And there are a few things that come to mind when you talk about food for the fall. We're going to put together a menu today for you. It's going to be pork chops. It's going to have a little twist on it. It's a mimic of what Jack Fry's has been doing for years. Mr. Bobby's going to put together some sweet potatoes and Brussels sprouts, and we're going to finish it off with an apple crisp. Apple crisp pretty dandy because you don't have to worry about making no pie crust. So you just get started on these pork chops real quick. Pork chops have several steps, several components, but a big recipe is just like eating an elephant. You do it one bite at a time. So first step, you have to make a couple things. This is a compound butter. We made compound butters back when we did our burgers because we stuffed our burgers with them. This one in particular is flavored with Dijon mustard and rosemary. A little salt, pepper, that's pretty much it. We have to make some herb breadcrumbs. These are panko breadcrumbs that have some rosemary, sage, thyme, a little salt and pepper in them. What the recipe doesn't tell you that I'm going to say when you get your pork chops out. Now, generally a pork chop has a rib attached. These do not. These are boneless pork chops. This is actually just a piece of pork loin, which is attached to the ribs. That we cut down into steaks. We know them as pork chops. Easy peasy. What the recipe doesn't tell you that I'm going to suggest, when you get started on your breading process, dust them with flour first. They're kind of damp, flour's dry. The dry flour helps the butter. Yeah, we're gonna pat with butter. Stick to the chop, and then the breadcrumbs will stick to the butter. And make sure you season everything as you go. So a little salt and pepper on our pork, a little salt and pepper in our in our flour. Breadcrumbs already been seasoned. So, process is simple. With flour, shake off the excess, do the same, shake off the excess. Now, we're going to put our butter to it. I didn't bring a spoon, I'm going to use my fingers. If you're less interested in making a mess, just use the back side of a spoon for this. Easy peasy. I like making a mess. Just ask my wife. This is easier if your butter's at room temperature, but your meat's cold. That's a lot of butter right there, man. The recipes, again, it's kind of long and drawn out, so we're just going to attach it to the end of the show, take a look at it. Again, there are several steps, there's a few components, but you just do it one step at a time, good to go. Now my preference, anytime you're doing a breading, generally a breading station is the seasoned flour. We've got that working. This will be replaced with an egg wash, and then the breading. We have our breading that we discussed earlier. So the only thing we've done is take away the eggs and add the butter. In an ideal world, you let this set overnight wrapped in cellophane in your chill chest, keeping it cold. The breading tends to stick a little better. Ours is not a perfect world, but it was yesterday, so I got half of it done. Give me just 1 minute to clean up my mess. Meet me over at the cooktop and we'll get busy frying some pork chops. Okay, Fixing to put our pork chops in is a couple of points when you're frying. Always heat your skillet first, all right? A hot pan, cold oil, it's less likely your food will stick. This is a non-stick skillet. I'm generally not a big fan of non-stick. For these pork chops and fried eggs, I'm using non-stick. So get your pan hot, add your oil, and you need enough. There you go. Now the oil's hot, add your food. Check your heat. Now, don't mess about with it. Once you get your food into the oil, leave it set, let the crust build up, let the caramelization happen, the mild reaction before you mess about with it. You start moving it around, whether it's our pork chops or fried chicken or fried green tomatoes, you mess about with it, you're gonna knock your bread in loose. It's not gonna be good eats. So this is gonna take a few minutes. Y'all go visit with Mr. Bobby. He's gonna put together those Brussels sprouts and sweet potatoes for you. Think you like it.
All right, now for our fall, next recipe for fall is going to be a sweet potato Brussels sprouts hash. We're gonna take some sweet potatoes first, roast those off. We've also got some Brussels sprouts that we'll do. We're gonna have a little bit of onion and garlic and bell pepper, and then we'll finish it off with some eggs on top of it. The first thing we're gonna do, actually, we've already done it. We took our sweet potatoes, peeled them, and then put them into large chunks. They don't have to be a small dice. This is just a very, very rough dice. Use these. Now, we actually cut these up yesterday and are gonna use them today. What you need to do if you ever cut up potatoes before you're going to cook them, put them into water. Water will keep them from turning brown. And when you're ready, you just drain them off and then you can use them at that point. So, we've got those in. We're gonna add a little bit of olive oil. In our bowl, we're gonna add some salt and pepper. And then we're just going to simply toss the sweet potatoes. Everything seems to be evenly coated. I'm gonna put it on our sheet. And again, we're doing this on a small scale. This will probably be done on a much larger scale if you're doing something sort of big. We're gonna put these into the oven now at 425 for 20 minutes. When we get those out, we'll be ready to do the rest of it. We'll be right back.
We've got the pork chops brown seared. They're in the oven finishing. Like I said, there are several components to this dish, so we're gonna put the topping together. What we have in the skillet here are some potatoes that I roasted yesterday. We're gonna reheat now. This is a mixture of candied onions and some chicken stock. It's gonna go back in. That'll all melt and be lovely. We've got some shiitake mushrooms, just sliced and pan fried. And then we have some bacon, because everything's better with bacon. Now the shiitakes were actually heated through in the bacon fat. Now, once all this comes back together, we'll finish it with some blanched asparagus. Our pork chops get done, we pull those out the oven. We put our potatoes, our bacon, our onions, our mushrooms, and our asparagus on top of it. And we'll finish it with a sauce. The recipe calls for vermouth sauce. We're gonna make it a little more kid-friendly. We're just gonna make an apple cider reduction manner with some butter and use it for the sauce. So let's go see how Mr. Bobby's doing on them sweet potatoes, eh?
All right, we've let our sweet potatoes roast for 20 minutes. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna add the next part to it. We're gonna take some Brussels sprouts. Now, the recipe says to cut the Brussels sprouts in half. These do not have to be cut in half. We have actually some really, really small Brussels sprouts, so we did not have to cut those in half. We also diced up an onion and some bell peppers. We're gonna toss those in as well. A little bit more olive oil, a little bit more salt and pepper, and toss these. Then what we're going to do is actually take our roast potatoes and put back in here as well. So we slide all of those in there, and then we have a mixture of smoked paprika, ground cumin, and some cayenne pepper. We're going to toss in with all of these as well. So now everything is together, and I wish you could smell this. It smells delicious. It's going to have a little bit of a bite, but it's going to be really good. And what we're going to do is actually put these right back into the oven and roast them for about 15 minutes more. Then we'll come back and we're going to put them into a cast iron skillet and finish them off in the oven. We'll be right back.
Folks, take a look at that. That syrup is about 1.5 cups of apple cider and about a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar. It's been reduced, touch of salt, pepper, and the same herbs we've used in the rest of the dish. We need to keep that syrup about 100, 105 degrees, and we're going to start putting butter into it, mounting the butter into it, and giving it a swirl till the butter melts. Now, if it's too hot, what's going to happen? The butter's going to break, and you're going to have apple flavored butter. It's not good eats. If we get it emulsified, then we will have us a butter sauce made from a reduction of apple cider. It will be lovely. Give me a minute, folks. All right, folks, we've got our pork chops finished. We cooked them to 145 degrees and finished them to 145 degrees in the oven. We've got our topping put together and our apple cider butter sauce. So this is how we're going to plate it. We're going to take us a pork chop, center of the plate. Everything a stir, make sure everybody's getting what they want. Potatoes, bacon, asparagus, onions, mushrooms, all the goodness. It's hard to get it built. And we'll finish it with just a touch of our cider butter. Clean the rim. And there you go, our Jack Fry's pork chop. We'll be back in just a minute with some sweet potatoes and Brussels sprouts and stuff.
Welcome back. We have now finished roasting off our potatoes and our Brussels sprouts and onions and bell pepper. What we're going to do is add this to a cast iron skillet along with some garlic, and then we're going to put some eggs on it. Now, fun thing about parchment paper is you can actually pick it up and you can use it. But the better thing about parchment paper is it usually keeps your paper pretty cool. And if you just pulled that out of a 425 degree oven, it will burn your hand. All right.
Let me get that out of your way.
So we're gonna add some garlic, add a little more salt and pepper. All right, now that we have our Brussels sprouts, our potatoes, onions, and garlic all in our cast iron skillet, we're actually gonna put in 4 eggs, okay? Now, on an earlier show, talked about cracking eggs with one hand. I'm not an expert at it. I can just show you how it's supposed to be done. Chef Ramsay's a show off and he'll do it better. But hit it on something flat, stick your thumb in and lift your thumb up and the egg comes out.
My man.
What you want to do when you do this, we have a large cast iron skillet. We're gonna put these into 4 different spots, and what you don't want them to do is to touch the sides of the pan or to touch each other. And the reason I'm doing them first in this bowl is so that in case a shell gets into the pan, I can get it out. Whoops. Another trick, if you do get a shell into a pan, or into a bowl, how to get it out is actually with the shell itself, the leftover shell. Because your finger, if you try to get it out, it like runs away from your finger. But with a actual eggshell, you can go in and scoop that out. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna put this back into the oven at 400 degrees for about 15 minutes. And when we bring it out, we will be all finished and ready for our sweet potato Brussels sprouts hash. And
folks, the last dish for our fall menu is going to be an apple crisp. Couldn't be a whole bunch simpler. Get an apple. What kind of apple? What kind do you like? These are Honey Crisp. Personally, I'm not a big fan of the delicious style apples for cooking. They kind of go mealy. I don't care much for that. Again, this is a Honey Crisp Macintosh, Granny Smith's, whatever you like. My kid likes Fuji apples. They're really good. You don't have to make it in one piece. See? Now, we're going to dice these apples. You can slice them if you want to. Dicing just kind of goes the fastest. It's a rustic dessert to begin with. Don't think it hurts a thing. So, you see the core? There's a core down the center. Cut alongside the core on one side. Lay them down flat. Cut alongside the core again. 3, 4 times. There's the core. Not good eats. Of what we have, make about 1/2 inch dice out of. If you got several apples to cut, put them in acidulated water. Acidulated, that's a big word, means it has acid in it. What kind of acid? That's lemon juice. Recipe says to bake 6 apples in an 8x8 dish. So do that if you want to. We kind of like individual portions, individual plates, so we use a little chafing dish. Now, the apples, when they come out the water, they get some sugar, some cinnamon, a touch of lemon juice. Back to that acidulation thing. What it does, it helps stop the oxidation or slow the oxidation, the rust. So there's a couple apples in a chafing dish, already seasoned and sweetened. What we have here is a crumb mix. The recipe calls for oatmeal, brown sugar, butter. Am I leaving anything out? And oatmeal. We didn't have any oatmeal. So we used, of all things, Ritz crackers. You just need something that's going to take those flavors and crisp up. And they will do that. Pile it on top. It goes in the oven, 350-ish. As small as that is, probably 25 minutes or so. Couldn't be much easier. Apple pie without the crust. So, be back in just a minute. We'll show you our whole menu and have a few words. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there's our fall menu. We're going to open the dinner with Mr. Bobby's sweet potato and Brussels sprout hash. If you don't want it as a starter, don't want the egg on it, change it. Use it as the vegetable course for the Brussels sprouts. Use it as the starch course for the sweet potatoes, but use it nonetheless. Our pork chop, made famous by Jack Fry's. It's got potatoes, asparagus, shiitakes, bacon, onions, and apple cider reduction. It's pretty good. And our apple crisp, it's like a pie without a crust. Wish we had some ice cream, Mr. Bobby. So anyway, there you go. Our fall menu. Enjoy your fall break. Enjoy your October. Everybody stay well. Roger Ramsey, EC3. If you need any catering, give us a call. Shoot us an email, ec3.catering@hardin.kyschools.us. It's a big long one. It's attached at the end of the show. All the recipes will be there. Show you folks you love them. Make a little something for them. Appreciate your time. We'll see y'all for Thanksgiving shortly.